Hi there everyone. So today is going to be a very unique unboxing. I'm going to be unboxing the very first scale model kit that I ever got for my collection. It is a kit that I never really got started on because I was unsure of my skill levels and how to go about it. So it surprisingly ended up not being worked on all these years. As you can see, most of the parts and sprues have been taken out of their plastic bags, and that's an old receipt from way back in 2011. So this kit is roughly 12 years now. Before I take a look at the parts, the runners and the sprues, let's have a look at the box art. At the front, we see the Going Merry ship, which is a ship from the One Piece anime series. The side box art shows the completed model kit, which actually looks like it has been painted. And that Luffy figure you see on the right is actually a separate model kit which is sold separately. So now let's take a look at the short end of the box, which is just a condensed graphic of the ship and the crew. Meanwhile, the other side of the box shows more details that can be found on this plastic scale model kit of the Going Merry ship from the One Piece anime series. Based on a rough glance of these images that I see here, I believe the ship that is shown on the photos have been painted. That's it for the box art that can be found on this kit. Now let's have a look at the runners, sprues and parts that are found in the box. But before that, let's have a look at the guide that was provided with this kit. At the first pages, they show the runners and sprues that were provided with the kit, plus some early assembly guide. Then assembly begins with the deck, followed by the hulls of the ship, assembly of the ship's anchor, the display stand, railings on the deck, some buildings on the deck, the mast, the sails, and other details like the rigging for the sails, and more railings, the masthead for the ship, and finally we go on to the figures which are the crew of the Going Merry ship. The colored pages on the back show the color guide for not only the ship but also for the crew, meaning Luffy, Usopp, Sanji, Zoro, Nami, and Tony Chopper. This is the crew of the Going Merry ship, at least for the early stages of the One Piece anime. So that then is the instructional guide that was provided with the kit. Now let's take a quick look at the sticker decals as well as the water decals that were provided. For the pirate symbol on the flags and the sail, they provided both a sticker decal as well as water decals. Meanwhile, for color correcting stickers, such as for the white parts on the railings, for the windows, as well as eyes for the masthead. And there are also sticker decals for the pirate flags on the mast, as well as the metal bits on the hull, as well as red stripes on the sail. So those come in a form of sticker decals. This then is a tiny rope that will be used on the anchor later. Now let's move on to the runners and sprues. We'll begin with the sprue A, which I had already snapped in two. It consists of figurines that make up the crew of Going Merry. These look like very detailed figures. It will be quite a challenge to paint them, but I believe it will be definitely worth it to paint them so that the scale of the ship will be more apparent when posed next to the ship. So these are then other parts like the building on the ship and also some cannons that attach to the hull, as well as other miscellaneous parts. Then we move on to sprue B, which is just one piece of the main sail of the Going Merry ship. It is a semi-transparent part which has kind of a pearl gloss to it. It looks good. So now we move on to sprue C, which, as you can see, I've already snapped some of the parts out from the sprue. I initially started work from this rudder piece that you see me holding in my left hand, and these are the other parts of the hull, but I never really continued with this model kit because back then I wasn't so sure on what to do. Next up is sprue D, which contains parts for the deck on the ship, some stairs, some doors and windows. So this is sprue D, which has a surface that has been molded to look like wood. Now then, we are moving to sprue E, which is mainly the railings that you find around the ship, as well as the main masthead, or rather the masthead of the ship itself. It's all molded in a semi-gloss or matte-like white color. Following this, we move on to sprue F, which contains the main mast as well as the secondary mast, the crow nest, as well as the two pirate flags for the Going Merry ship. This has been molded in a light brown color. Next, we have the part for the bottom hull of the ship. These also have a very good molding, plastic molding that mimics the grain that you find on wood. Once painted up, it should look very realistic. Now we have sprue H, which is the secondary sail of the ship. It has been molded in one light beige color, but the secondary sail actually has red stripes on it, which we can color correct with either sticker decals or through paint. Next up is sprue I, which is the display stand. It has a plasticky gold color, which looks awful if you ask me. So these parts here will most likely be repainted in actual metallic color. Next up is sprue J. These are mainly the ropes and rigging all around the ship. These parts will also have to be repainted in order for them to look more realistic. Last but not least, we have sprue K, which are the plants. Yes, you heard me right, plants that are on the Going Merry ship. And if you follow the anime, you will understand these are actually plants that have orange on them. So it's a very unique characteristic of the Going Merry ship. So now as I put the runners and sprues back into the box, I'll just roughly explain what I plan to do for this project. I'll plan to repaint huge portions of the ship to ensure that they look as realistic as possible, at least as close to the enemy as possible. And this, as I mentioned earlier, is a very unique scale model kit, as it's my first ever in my collection, bought nearly over 12 years ago. And back then I didn't have a clue on what to do. So now after 12 years of experience, at least I have a rough idea of what I intend to do and how to go about it. I'm actually really looking forward to this, and interestingly enough, I'm starting out on this project as news of the very first live action show of the One Piece anime is about to go on air, at least at the time of the recording of this video. So anyway, I'm looking forward to getting started on this project. I hope you'll join me on this journey of getting the Going Merry ship fully painted and assembled. So let's meet again in part 2 of this One Piece Going Merry series.